Beautiful.
The hemp tree.
The him tree. All right, everybody, we're back.
Welcome back.
All right.
All right.
Riverside is always riversiding, so we always
Mm-hmm.
roll with the punches.
That's
All right.
quite all right.
John, I was gonna ask you. So, let's say someone's just taking just plain jujitsu, right?
Yep.
Um, how can you compare that to like an actual like force on force combatives class?
Well, the way things work in jujitsu is number one, there's equal initiative. So, like, if we go to a jujitsu class, it's like, hey, we slap bump. We know we're gonna roll. Kind of got a gentleman's agreement. Nobody's gonna jump in. We're on a padded floor and everything like that. Whereas, kind of the force on force class, there's a little bit of unequal initiative, especially if you set up the scenario properly. So you're kind of like you're there's a lot of mental friction that goes on when you're being kind of talked to, and even when you're being spoken to in a weird way, and if that way is also kind of like confrontational, and they're
Mm-hmm.
kind of escalating or something to that effect, just kind of distracting. It's like people can be, I think the best criminals, they kind of are really good as far as not revealing their intentions. They're good at making sure they have like a almost like a benign request. Like, hey, I got something for you. Can I just see the time real quick? All of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden they assault you or something to that effect to try to take your kind of take your watch or whatever it is they want to take from you. So there's unequal initiative. Or and the other side of that is that there is something called disproportionate armament. So um, if you don't know you're in a fight, you don't necessarily bring your weapon out. And whereas the person kind of initiating, they're starting this conversation, they're trying to draw you into this thing. They've got your attention focused on something completely unrelated. All of a sudden, now you got a blade to your neck, or you've got a gun drawn on you. So it's like so they're armed, you're unarmed, so there's disproportionate armament. So that's kind of the difference as far as the condition goes.
Mm-hmm.
Unequal initiative, disproportionate armament. Now, as far as the training goes, once we start doing the training, what we have to recognize is that in jujitsu specifically, there is something called a hierarchy position, where it's like I get to one position and then I get to another position that's better than the last. And I'm essentially kind of moving through this hierarchy of position where I'm winning, but I have not won. And a lot of it is really dictated by my ability as far as like striking effective efficacy in those positions. So in Force and Force, it doesn't work that way. The hierarchy position is almost thrown out the window because
Mm-hmm.
now we're able to introduce training weapons and we're able to do damage from unorthodox positions. So I would say that a lot of it is really dictated by your ability to control the weapons access, and so that's really the large difference is that people don't necessarily understand like too much jujitsu kind of gets you kind of gets a lot of people wrecked when they're doing force on force until we tell them to change the priority where it's like the hands that are focused on control. You're trying to get to some type of dominant position, and it's not the same as if you were in Brazilian jiu-jitsu where it's like mount, take the back, or anything like that. Not necessarily. What you really want to get is some type of perpendicular position where essentially you're off to the side of them, or you want to get behind them. Okay. So this could be grounded, this could be up against the wall, or it can be kind of moving within free space where it's like there's a perpendicular position, or you want to get behind them being the best because they can't effectively bring weapons to bear on you from that position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I saw this one video. The guy, I guess he did jujitsu because it looked like he was moving correctly on the ground. He went and mounted the guy, and he was about to punch him in the face, and then all of a sudden, you just see his leg just starts leaking out blood. He didn't think about the guy having a knife, and the guy just slashed his whole entire thigh. He had like an 8 inch cut on his leg,
Mm.
and he was just leaking.
Yeah, I mean, there's it's like, hey, you can get my back and choke me out and everything like that, but if I've taken an edge weapon and I've jammed it into your thigh, I mean, if I make you bleed out, even though you choke me out, like who actually wins?
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's again, right? Like, and this is something like the mount is a super dominant position. It's actually like the mount and the back, you get the most points for. Jiu-jitsu scoring, the traditional scoring system incentivizes those positions the most. But in a weapons-based environment, they don't it's not necessarily plug and play. I think wrestling has been the only thing, as far as plug and play from the sport into the weapons based environment, because there's a lot of risk control, there's a lot of pinning, there's a lot of riding, whereas like essentially you're using body weight to control and immobilize somebody, fix them in place, and you still have this ability to disengage. um, Jiu-jitsu is not necessarily like that. Jiu-jitsu was mainly developed with challenge matches in mind. So think about it. We're in like 1980s Brazil. You know, I'm with the girl with the thong. You want her, and it's like you can't have her, so we fight about it. And there's this whole gentleman's agreement. Nobody's friends are going to get involved. We're not going to bite each other's nose off, gouge each other's eyes out, or anything like that. We're just going to fight and kind of work out, see what happens. So, with that in mind, most people's fight plan is exactly the same. When they get into a fight, there's a push and shove and posturing, everything to that effect. Um, then there becomes we're gonna basically bludgeon each other with strikes until we can no longer fight back effectively. That's almost everybody's single plan. That is the plan of my toddler if he was in school. That's the plan of the world class boxer. That's the plan of the world class kickboxer. Bludgeon my opponent with strikes until they can no longer fight back effectively. What jiu-jitsu did was that, okay, since this is everybody's plan, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab them, I'm going to pull their legs out from under them and pin them on the ground so that way they can't move. And to essentially not worry about getting kicked in the face while they are down there, I'm going to work on passing the legs and getting on top of their chest so that way I can hit them in the face really hard many times and they can't hit me. And because I'm doing things from that position, my striking doesn't necessarily have to be very refined. I'm in a position where I've got gravity on my side. I've got the high ground. You can't move, so I'm essentially just playing. That's shooting fish in a barrel at that point.
Hmm.
So so that's kind of like where people, or at least people need to kind of get beyond thinking linearly about thinking about things in terms of systems. And like the way you develop tactics is you practice certain skill sets in isolation, you get particularly good at certain skill sets, and then you start integrating these things. And that's kind of like what we try to provide through the Combative Summit, through pressure tested training, Shiv Works, and kind of like all the people that are coming to the summit. That's what we do. We facilitate that process for people where they get to actually explore what happens where if somebody else is trying to impose themselves using a different tactic against the ones that they've kind of like focused on. Does that make
Gotcha.
sense?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like one of the videos that I saw on your page that really caught my attention, the you and another guy, you were pressing your shoulder and your head against the side of his neck, and you were explaining how to draw your shirt over your handgun if you were appendix carrying.
Yep.
Yeah, and you could explain it better than I can, obviously.
Yeah, so that is just like a single hand garment clear, and I think this is something we don't we think about fights at the outcome. That's kind of like how people assess things. They just kind of like what happened at the outcome, and let me train for that thing because that decided the outcome. And I would argue that people need to get better about assessing the preconditions that led up to the outcome. So, for instance, we'll use cops because they're just a really good example for this. A lot of times you see bad tactics lead to good shootings. And, like, how does that even work? Well, you get a cop and he's trying to pull somebody over. He's trying to, person run hot on a warrant. Guy, cop needs to take him to jail. Guy doesn't want to go. So he starts fighting the cop, right? And the cop never really worked on his control tactics ever. So he gets away. So now a foot pursuit goes on. And it's like, dude, I've already committed. I've fought you. I've ran from you. I'm not going to jail today. So now all of a sudden now becomes a fist fight. That fist fight because the cop brought a gun with him. It's a gunfight already. If whether they're trying to grab it and take it off of him, or maybe they're an armed suspect as well. So all these things that led up to that could have been mitigated by exercising good control tactics. right? And that cop, through his control tactics, probably never also thought about having to draw his gun with one hand. And I think that's also something that happens with a lot of concealed carriers. It's like um, typical assaults, violent assaults. Like I think something like a quarter of them are armed. Most of them are physical in nature. It's hands and feet. So it's like you go to this class to get this license where it's like 8, 12, 16 hours, however many hours it says. It says that the force that you use has to be appropriate and appropriate to the threat that you meet. I mean, you can't burn somebody down just because they hit you. But now all of a sudden, let's think about George Zimmerman, where Trayvon Martin, who was training MMA, took him down, sat on his chest, hit him in the face a whole bunch of times, said he's gonna kill him, and in that struggle, somehow managed to draw his pistol and discharge a shot. Right? I mean, it could have easily went the other way. I mean, he's lucky that most martial artists are not thinking in the sense of like, I need to control their hands and deny that
Mm-hmm.
access to weapons. So
Mm-hmm.
it could have been also led to a point where he grabbed his gun. And now if I know how to grapple and you don't, your gun will eventually become our gun, and our gun will eventually become my gun. And then I'm going to use it on you and say thank you for making it way easier to kill you. And and it's and I'd rather not like have people experience that in the real world. I'd rather have them come to something like the summit where they get to kind of immerse themselves, and it's a laboratory as opposed to a coliseum, and they get to expose these things and they get to draw these things, and now they find themselves as a concealed carrier fighting in the clinch. Somebody drew a knife on them, drew a gun on them. Now they need to control the arms before, because you can't just immediately rush to the gun. You have, at that point, you have to earn the draw, and you have to establish control. And the video you saw was me teaching concepts as far as like establishing the control. And now once you have that what you call a wrist and arm elbow tie on the far side, and you have kind of an underhook, um, what you're going to do now you're able to control that arm and keep the other arm from getting your gun or something else. Now you have one hand free to essentially clear the garment and draw your pistol. And that point, that's going to be called that's concepts of in-fight weapons access. Kind of drawing a gun from extreme close range, and it's not as simple as just me getting the gun out. There's a lot of effort involved because I allow the space and time, and I allowed the space to collapse. I didn't see the fight coming, and now I'm in a position where I've essentially got to regain the initiative, gain control, and at that point, I can bring my own weapon to bear.
Okay. Yeah, I wish I could find that video because it was really cool how you were explaining it um,
I think it's on my
on
one of
your Instagram, right?
yeah.
Do you think appendix carry is the best way to carry your self defense weapon?
I think so. I think, and I'm gonna say why I think it's the best. I think it's the best because it's very versatile. You don't have to like, and I think it also prints less. I think when you're looking directly onto somebody, it if they're carrying a good holster, like a Tenacore or something like that. Um, I think it's harder to see and notice if they're actually carrying. I think from the strong side hip, I mean, that's probably the um and for me, I would say that's kind of the second best as far as for concealment. Um, when you're looking straight onto somebody, it kind of looks like something's poking out. I think to me, it looks really obvious with the strong side hip. So I think like maybe like 3 or 4 o'clock. But I'm not a big. I mean, you could carry kind of. Oh, excuse me. 1 or 2 o'clock. The three or 4 o'clock. Yeah, I mean, you could do it. I would say that beyond three, three is kind of too much. Beyond that, it's kind of like there is a little bit of a risk as far as if somebody clinches you, they grab you and they try to pin you somewhere, they're able to reach it because at four, it's kind of slightly behind your hip. So now you've got to bring your arm back into a really weak position.
Mm.
So that's kind of why I would not really recommend going beyond three. I understand why people do it. If you got to, right, you assess your threat profile. I'm just a guy on the internet yelling, so you get to assess your profile however it is you want.
Mhm.
I would just say that my training has informed me that this provides this type of compromise. Now, if I'm dressed to impress and I'm kind of in a social event, like I'm gonna be at my wife's graduation this way, I might carry something like a 4 o'clock. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? At that point, because of just how I'm dressed for just for the occasion. But again, right? You have to go ahead and assess your
Mhm.
what's likely and what's most deadly for you.
How do you feel about like carrying in like a book bag? What is an off body carry? I think they call it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a viable option, man. It's again, right? Like what's the occasion call for? So like
Mhm.
um I use the Hunter Constantine belt now, so like I'm able to carry like almost anything with that. But
Mhm.
maybe I'm going to the pool or I'm gonna go swim or something to that effect. I think
Mhm.
those are the times where the off body like really stands out. Um, you could put things, that yeah, I would say that's kind of a good time for that.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, there's a lots of different ways to do it. It just kind of depends on what does the occasion call for, what am I doing, and like I don't care what you do as long as you know why you're doing it.
I got you. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So I found the video. Let me share with everybody. Can you guys see the Instagram page?
Yes. Hey,
Nice.
he's a lot bigger than you
Right?
too.
So
Uh-huh.
now I go ahead and catch, right? Have my wrist and elbow pin. I get a nice tight control to him. Now I'm going to go ahead and release the wrist. All right.
So he's got the
Grab my
seat belt
garment. I'm going to
behind, and
roll
then
it. All right. Make sure that it's clear. I could use a backwards roll or I could use a forward roll. Okay. So I see the forward roll, how it's
so for
missing,
everybody
but I
that's
can use the
listening,
backwards
he's
roll
he's
as well.
basically grabbing
Okay.
his
You don't
shirt
have time to
and
like
putting it
think about this
behind
stuff
the
in the
beaver tail
situation. So what you have
of
to do is basically
his
give yourself experience.
his weapon in the front.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's a
until
slower method, also, just as a caveat. It's a slower way to get it out with the one-handed draw. You can kind of just come here and pull out.
Mhm.
I would say the only thing is that people they're kind of compulsive with keeping their thumb up. So a lot of times they get caught on the garment. So that's
Mhm.
just one way to base. It's slower, but 100% the garment's completely out of the way.
How effective do you think a groin shot is in self defense?
It's not predictable. I would say that.
Mhm.
I would say that the effect is not predictable. I mean, if you don't know you're gonna get kicked in the nuts, then yeah, it could really mess you up, and it just kind of depends on what's the quality of hit.
Mhm.
Did it shit my thigh before it hit me in the balls? Like it's just kind of like it's just has an unpredictable effect. You don't really know what kind of effect is gonna have. But I would say don't really necessarily focus so much on targeting
Mhm.
as much as I would say, of do damage. That's
Like
what I would say.
gouging and stuff, and yeah.
Well, you got to gain control first.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to gain control. You want to fight for a dominant position. You want to control the weapon first. That's always right. That's
Mhm.
first
Yeah.
Mhm.
first priorities work is that you want to control the weapon or deny access to getting one. Then you
Mhm.
want to fight for position, which I was talking about as far as like you want to get to some type of perpendicular position or get behind
Mhm.
them. And then at
Mhm.
that point you start doing damage. So
Mhm.
so doing damage from a point of having a dominant position where you have that seatbelt grip that Dimitri showed, or you got a
Mhm.
rear clinch. That is really what you want to do. So maybe the damage is hitting them with the earth. Maybe the damage is shooting from a retention shot. Um,
Mhm.
it just depends on kind of the
Yeah.
situation. As long as the force is appropriate and appropriate to the threat, that just do your damage. And may also be the other thing about getting into some type of position like perpendicular behind them is that you're able to disengage it when you want.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
like, if all of a sudden you take the fight out of them, or they're done, or something to that effect, you're able to disengage, and you're able to get. If I need to basically just break contact, hey, we're not fighting or anything like that. Okay, cool, we're
Mhm.
good. We're both walking away, or I want to go ahead and make sure I reestablish that projectile weapon range, and I want to use my gun the way it's intended.
Mhm.
The retention shooting is great; it works, but at the same time, pistol was designed to be used at projectile weapon range, like beyond 5 feet. And I want to be, if I want to be on my sights, I want to be on my dot. I can do that. I can disengage effectively from behind them better than if they were in front of me or I was in front of them.
Yeah, in that video, I didn't even notice the seatbelt that you put on the guy. I thought you just had like had him in a clinch until you just explained it. Yeah, I didn't even notice the seatbelt. I was like, oh, okay, so he's got both arms, and now he's
Mhm.
going for it.
Yeah.
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 So
It's,
so if you in your combatives class, right? Is it anything like Krav Maga?
No.
Okay.
Krav Maga is not, um, it's not really a martial art.
Okay.
Krav Maga is more. Yeah, I think I forget what it translates to, but it's more of like a mixed. It's a mixed bag of things, and we got to think about this, okay? Because the cultures behind the martial art, okay, they're very important to assess as far as like where the martial art came from, how they train, and why they're training.
Mm-hmm.
So again, right, we talked about Brazilian jiu-jitsu, the challenge fight on the beach, one-on-one. It's a good plan for me to take you down and just hold and wrestle you if you want to hit me. For Krav Maga, they developed that for the Israeli military, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in Israel is conscripted at 18. So you got regular ass people joining this military to fight an enemy that is determined and they're determined to win. So, like, how do I take these regular ass people and turn them into warriors, making them fight? So if you look at like what's going on in the training methods of Krav Maga, like it's very much like it's very animated. It's very performative. In America, it's really hot and cold. There are some people that are doing some really ridiculous things, and there are some people that are doing good stuff. But most of the time, the people who are doing good stuff, it's more like a MMA hybrid with self defense. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, it's Krav Maga itself isn't really it really isn't was never meant to be this standalone martial arts product that it's become in America. It's for normal people in Israel that are conscripted, and we need to make sure that we force them in a position to fight, so that way we could turn them and basically prepare them for the combat they're likely to experience in the coming years.
Yeah, because there was like a show on Netflix back in the day. I think it was called Fight World or something like that. I forgot the guy that was hosting it, but he went to Israel. He went all over the world, and he trained with all different kinds of martial artists. But when he went to Israel, one of the things that the IDF guy showed him was he made this scenario. He was walking home. Someone pulled a gun on him and said, give me all your money, or I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah.
And he was like, the first thing he did was like, okay, he put his hands up, and then he like pointed at his wallet. He was like, I need to get my wallet. And then like he said, your eyes go to what he's pointing at, and that's when the like fancy stuff came in. And then he would reach for the gun and move the slide back.
you got your bullet to the face. That sounds like some Jackie Chan shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, yeah, no. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no. Um, yeah, it's like I said, man. There's so many correlations between the martial arts world and kind of the tactical training world. Like you kind of already know by certain names and kind of like how people frame things. It's like, okay, today's scenario is you're robbed and the mugger he's approached you from behind and he's put you down on your knees and he's got a gun to the back of your head and this is the technique to get out of there. Like, hold on, wait a second. How many things did I fuck up to where I'm here? There's a gun to my head. I'm down on my knees. Like, am I with my family? Like, what is that? Like, what's, you know what I mean? Like, there's
Yeah.
like, what is the actual, you know what I mean? So it's like again, training at the outcome as opposed to like where are like let's go ahead and go to the precondition. It's a lot of a lot of what you'll see is what I like to call downstream solutions for upstream problems.
Hmm.
So, for instance, like you'll see a lot of guys who are cops that practice jujitsu. They'll recommend kind of a shooting from a supine position, basically laying on your back and shooting from that position.
Hmm.
Again, how many things did I fuck up to where I'm down on my back against a lethal threat? Now I got to draw my pistol. And also, are my fundamentals good enough to where I'm able to exercise that from standing, let alone try to do that from a supine position? And so when you start to kind of unpack these things and kind of like ask these questions, and again, right, being practical about it, you start realizing like how silly and performative this shit is. It's entertainment value. It's not fucking real. It's a fugazi. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just nonsense. So, and again, right, like the market, everybody gets to say where the money goes. Okay, in the market, including the market. So I'm not trying to knock anybody. I don't need you to justify your purchase to me. I'm just, I for me and kind of the people that I roll in and kind of the circles I run in, the stakes are really high, and
Mm.
I just can't deal with performative. I just it's just not gonna work for me. I'm not gonna waste my time on it. I'm not gonna go. Also, I'm not gonna waste time in knocking it. It's just I think it's just good to kind of know what's out there, so that way when people kind of come to me like, "Hey, what do you think about this stuff?" and I have a good answer for them. Or and the other side of that too is how are students able to validate the stuff that they learn? This is something this is something that the tactical world is really missing, really big time. So in jujitsu, if or martial arts, kind of any modern martial arts program, anything I do, there's a bullshit filter to it. Because after you show me, I'm immediately gonna spar somebody trying to work against me and try to practice it.
Yeah.
So how do we like where is that? Like where's the pressure testing? Where's the validation, right? That happens at the individual level. Because even if you're the biggest, baddest gunfighter in the world, you're not going to be there with me when I take contact. And also, it doesn't matter if you were on, you rescued people in 9/11 or you on the Bin Laden raid. Um, there is no one contact situation or one circumstances to define them all. So
Mm.
if I'm training for something where it's like my life is going to be on the line, I need to protect my family, I need to protect my children. Trust me, bro, isn't going to work.
Yeah.
You understand? So when when I try to like ask people like, hey, so what's the validation for this skill? And it's just like, oh, well, this, that, the other thing that happened there. It's like, okay, well, you're providing me a downstream solution for an upstream problem, and or you're I paid you to give me your bias to a circumstance.
Hmm.
You're not actually giving me the skill set that I'm looking for. You're not actually giving me something where I'm able to adjust these skill sets, the general core skills, as far as like what happens in contact or fighting, whatnot. Um, how do I take those general skills and apply them and adapt them for the context that in which I'm going to apply them? Right? How do I take you know what I mean? How like whatever you did operationally, it's almost irrelevant. Doesn't matter how many bodies you dropped either. Okay,
Hmm.
I would say that as well, because it's like if we cared about body count, then why aren't we paying African child soldiers here to come fucking be instructors? That
Yeah.
dude smoked a whole village missing a front sight on his AK. Like,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? So it's like so at the end of the day, it always comes back down to the skill. Can you take the skills that you know? Can you package it in a way where you can shorten the learning curve for me to where I engage in a process to where like I'll eventually be able to perform the skills in a way that the situation or circumstances typically demand.
So for somebody that's just listening to this podcast, right, and they're like, I want to start now, what's the top three things I could just start without going to a class or anything like that?
Um, I would say that so we have a free community, the Combatives Association. It's on Facebook. You go to combativessassociation.com and find the link or just kind of shoot me a message. I'm pretty easy to find. But it's Combatives Association Facebook group. That's gonna be kind of like, okay, how do I streamline this? Or how do I approach this? Because again, like I need to take what I need for self defense. I need to also adapt it as far as like doing it in the gym with my partners and in a way where I'm still able to play the game and have fun, right? Because that's ultimately what it is. It's just like you want to be able to have fun because if the training is fun, you'll keep doing it. And if you keep doing it, you'll get better, even by accident. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So so that's kind of the main thing. The next thing is that I would say is reduce your friction to whatever training you decide to do. Um, and you don't necessarily even have to do all the shit that I do. You don't have to do jujitsu, shoot guns, and all this. Like, you don't have necessarily have to do that. I would say just going and doing a very simple program like starting strength, buying Mark Cripito's book, and then you work out 3 times a week doing barbell lifts. That's it. It's boring. It's so linear, so direct, and so simple, and works every single time. If you just get bigger and stronger, not only will the quality of your life improve, just being big and strong is a deterrent. Like that's it. It's again, right? You start thinking about the house situation. It's just like, nope, I don't want that problem. I'm willing to choose this person instead. Okay, Kate, feeding into that deselection theory. If you want to get into some type of martial art, then pick what's closest to you and use the free trial. Um, if you're older, like you're in your 40s, 50s or something to that effect, I mean, see if you could get a private lesson with the instructor and work that way. Um, but kind of get a feel for the culture of wherever it is that you're training because inevitably those things end up overtaking your social life.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to like the people that you're training with. You want to make sure that they're mature in terms of the training, that they're not trying to hurt you. You're not going to a fight club or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
The easy way to tell if you're in a pretty decent gym is by who the community is. If you see like a lot of like mid 30s, early 40s, 50s guys, there's probably a good mature gym. Probably going to train and not get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a kids program, a successful kids program, they probably also know how to coach.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so those are the things that kind of look for.
Okay.
And of course, dry fire is free. Dry fire is free as shit. It's just,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Do you do it right? So
Hmm.
Yeah, I got the Mantis Titan X. I've been training with that, and it's pretty fun, and it tells me a lot of what my gun is doing. Let's just say that much.
okay.
Do your wife use it, Demetri?
No, she hasn't used it yet.
Oh, okay.
The one thing I wish, like, for the Mantis, it's nice, and it's almost like you have a loaded gun. It's still a little light, but when you drop the mag, it gets significantly lighter in your hand. And then, like, when you're reloading the other mag that it comes with, it's kind of the same, but it doesn't. It just that's the one thing I've noticed. And then the trigger's a little funkier. I know Glock triggers aren't the best in the world, but they're not that bad.
They've come a long way.
Yeah, they have. I haven't shot the Gen 6. That's what I'm gonna get shortly. That's it, and start carrying that.
Yeah, I hear the Gen Sixes are pretty nice. The triggers on them,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I haven't fingered one yet.
Yeah, his old gun shop. They used to call him Fingers when we walked in because he wanted to touch everything.
Hey, you don't know until you touch it and pick it up and manipulate it and.
So a common question that is all over the 2A community, EDC.
Yep.
What should you carry with you on a daily basis?
Ooh, so I used to be really big into like the whole what the married rig where you got the pistol and the magazine.
Hmm.
Um, After a while, I kind of started seeing a lot of circumstance, and almost none of them ever civilian context ever required people to reload. I think it's a good idea. It's not wrong to kind of keep your gun topped off. Like, okay, boom, I had an engagement, and now let me go ahead and top my gun off just in case somebody else. But like, if you're carrying a modern semi-automatic, I mean, like six, if you especially put one in the hole for the Glock, I mean,
Mhm.
you got 15 plus one, like, you know what I mean? Like what's happening in your life where it's like, you know what I'm saying? You know, like, do you really suck that bad? Or like, are you getting accosted by ninjas? I don't know. But almost no situations ever really require people to reload. So I stopped carrying a reload, and I actually carry I carry a fixed blade, or I carry some type of punch dagger.
Hmm.
So I carry, this is the El Nino, so I'll carry that in my weak side. Okay. So
Ooh, that look
very,
mean.
yeah, very simple punch dagger, or carry this as a clinch pick
Mm.
by Shivworks. So um, I kind of break things down, I think, into like basic options, right? So your first fight option is going to be control the fight from the furthest range possible. Your
Hmm.
second fight option is the distance collapse, unequal initiative, and now you're in a space where you can't really get your pistol out. So a secondary like a knife actually plays really good in that range. Third option is that you essentially got to close the distance. You're seizing initiative, and now you're trying to finish the fight. But in the clinch range, it's really hard to get the pistol out without having the with some type of grappling skill. So I think the knife or a small fixed blade like that, it's really hard to grab, and you can typically get this out in places where you can't get a pistol out. So
Hmm.
I have a Glock 19 in a Tenacore Velo holster. I have the clinch pick there, and then also I'll have some like palm pepper spray as well in case I come across some type of loudmouth. So.
Just
do, do,
spraying.
do you think a flashlight is important for everyday carry also?
Yeah, I think so. But it's like I'm not super bought into the whole like EDC light thing. I think a lot of it is kind
Hmm.
of marketing,
Hmm.
kind of making you feel like you need that. I mean, I live in El Paso. El Paso's a pretty significant as a city. There's not really any time where I'm in absolute fucking darkness. It's just like it just doesn't happen for me like that. I used to do law enforcement.
Hmm.
So in those situations, 100%, a light is super huge because a light also, and you could do this as well for civilian context. A light does provide you a little bit of concealment. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So it does have its advantages. Are they necessary? That's up to you to decide, right? Again, like,
Hmm.
you get to do whatever you want as long as you know why you're doing it. I'm cool with that.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think a light is very, very useful. I think it's very handy just as a general thing. And for EDC, it definitely can give you some type of sense of concealment as well.
How about on your weapon? Like a light system on your weapon.
I just got a dot. I got a Trigicon Armor 2.
Okay.
Yep. And I think it's like 5 MOA or something like that. So yeah, I'm very, very practical, rugged, robust. Shit works. I've run it through
Shit works.
classes, matches, shot it. Yeah, I don't know, man. I had that Glock since 2012, man. So I had that. Yeah, she's running like a
It
champ.
works, right?
Yep,
And you know it does.
every single time.
So one of the things that I always ask people when I'm talking to people and they say they carry as how often should you go actually shoot?
Um, it depends on your goal, right? Like, what are you trying to prepare for? Um, I would say that shooting isn't the real training. I would actually say that dry fire is the real training that happens. Shooting just kind of informs you what you need to be working on in your dry fire. So the dry fire is actually the real shooting. Shooting is just like when you're putting rounds down range, it's gonna if you're able to assess your target and you're able to diagnose like what inputs you're giving to the gun to where it's like, okay, hey, I'm doing the very typical right-handed shooter thing, low and left. That's telling me a couple things. That's telling me I'm anticipated recoil, pushing the gun down as it recoils, and I'm also creating extra tension with my firing hand. All right. So that means when I dry fire, I need to make sure that I am focused and putting my mind on just pressing my trigger finger straight back to the rear without moving the gun. Okay. Um, it's very simple, but now let me isolate it further with a training method like trigger control at speed, where I set my timer to point, a quarter of a second, and I want to go ahead. I want to press the trigger faster than it takes for that beep. I want to respond to the beep with immediacy, and I want to make sure that the trigger is pressed before that beep is finished. Okay, it's really fast, so I got to press it straight back to the rear. I'm not worried about the wall. I don't care if it's single action, double action, none of that shit. So that it's again, right? Like this is something you could do at home, and you can get really, really good with no ammo. You could shoot once a month just to kind of validate that and do it. It's just like most people don't have the, I would say, it's boring as shit for them. Like they don't they and because they don't necessarily know what they're working on in the dry fire. They don't know what it is that they're trying to accomplish. They don't have a point of focus. So the dry fire is boring because they're just going through the motions. And nobody wants to do that shit. So so if you're just working on just for the sake of like I want competency, get a dry fire book, somebody to coach you online. I offer online coaching. Um and work through that. If you're in like you probably just need to shoot like once a month just to validate. And I look at it as like a cyclic process. I do some live fire, my live fire informs me. I do the dry fire to correct what I saw at the live fire. Then I go back, do the live fire. My live fire will inform me of something else as far as isolation, and I go back and do that again in the dry fire. So it's a circle. It's a cyclic process in terms of feedback, and as far as like what I need to be working on and making sure that I actually did correct those issues through the live fire validation. So like but that's if you're just trying to do it, um, and like that is just going to depend how much you do that is up to you as far as your goal, like how much. So if you're competitive, yeah, you might maybe want to do every other week, maybe once a week. Some people who are really heavy, they're doing it twice a week. That's a big commitment for a lot of people. It's a lot of money, a lot of ammo. Um, so so that's one. If it's just self defense, what man going to fire once a month. I mean that's plenty good. I mean as long as you're dry fire, you're being pretty diligent with it, and guys will be like, "Oh man, I dry fired an hour or whatnot." Like I have this cube here, right? And I'll set it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes at a time, and 10 minutes of hard, aggressive dry fire. I'm focused on doing nothing but that, not playing music, not checking my phone or anything like that. Man, I get a lot of reps. That is very, very tiring, especially if I'm using rifle. It's very, very physical, intense. It's hard to keep up with because I'm trying to relax my dominant hand as much as possible while squeezing everything I have with my non-dominant hand, my support hand. And it's fatiguing, and 5 minutes straight of just doing that, it's a lot of work getting done. And I'm not a world champion or nothing like that. I made A class mostly by accident, but um, it's been working for me. And that's kind of typically how the people I run with, that's typically how they do it. They block out sets of 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 25 minutes. It's not very much time at all, and you can get really good. And the world champion Christian Seiler, he said he trains 15 minutes a day, but he knows what he's doing. He understands what he's trying to achieve with the dry fire, and
Mm.
that's why people are not really doing it because it's difficult to, or I should say, there's a lot of conflicting information on how shooting is done because you can get things done in the old ways, right? Like let's say you buy a Walmart knife and you go cut somebody's neck. Is that not effective?
It
100%,
is.
right? But, like,
Mhm.
are there better knives out there? Aren't there better things to, you know what I mean? Like, just because it's like something crude can be effective. And
Mm-hmm.
because of that, there's a lot of conflicting information. So it's like, why don't we just do what CrossFit did? CrossFit looked at all the individual aspects of fitness training and like, all right, in this individual aspect, how do the best in the world do this?
Mm.
Right? And that's kind of like what I suggest people do. It's like if you're just working on just shooting, see how the best in the world do it. See how they train for just shooting. And a
Mhm.
lot of times you're not going to need nowhere near as much as them and you're going to get so far ahead because for competitive shooters, they're doing single target engagements, multiple target engagements, single and multiple target engagements while moving, and then they're doing scenarios as far as stages.
Mhm.
And for most self-defense encounters with a gun, you're probably going to need single target engagement, multiple target engagement. So half of what they need, or even less than that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see a pattern in most self-defense people. They also say the most important part of self-defense is being aware and avoidance
Yeah.
of the situation.
But what's the actionable modality to train that? How do I train awareness?
Mm-hmm.
What is an aware? Like that's not that, you know what I mean? As my friend Craig Douglas would say, aware is not a verb.
Mm-hmm.
So what am I actually doing? What are the actionable suggestions as far as doing that? And that's kind of like that's again, right? This is downstream solutions for upstream problems. So let me say, okay, what if I told you instead, if you're going to go to some type of transitional space, let's say you're going from a Target to your parking lot, so you're going to your car,
Mm-hmm.
in that space there is a lot of time and people involved. So what I want you to do is making sure your phone is put away, you're observant of your environment, you're taking a wide field of focus, and I want you to assess what people within that environment are just kind of posted, just lurking, just lingering, not doing
Mm-hmm.
anything particular, but they're observant as far as like what people are going on. I want you to find a person like that, and I want you to go ahead and hone in on that and go ahead and make your kind of on the spot assessment as far as like your kind of a almost like a visual frisk is like, what
Mm-hmm.
is this person doing? Why are they doing that? Okay, now this person's encroaching me. What do I do then? Well, don't use inviting language. Don't say something to the effect of like, "Hey, can I help you for a second?" Because now all of a sudden, now the conversation's in, and they're putting you in that position where they can have you within option 2 or 3, right? Where the range is collapsed and you ain't got nothing else except maybe a secondary, or you got to reestablish a position. Um, Now at that point, you're trying to like, okay, now they're revealing themselves. What are the typical pre-assault cues? How
Mm-hmm.
do I make sure? You know what I mean? So it's like I get that, and I think that's well-intentioned advice,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mhm.
developing well-intentioned advice, um, and I paid you a lot of money. That's shit's gonna make you, you know?
Makes sense.
Um, so let's say someone's walking up to you and just asking you questions. What should you look for to see if this person has ill intent of you?
So, my friend Craig Douglas, he's kind of codified this in a way that nobody else has. And he's done it from a really unique lived experience as far as being a Mississippi dope cop, and he calls it pre-assault cues. And he's got a whole online course for that, or he also does it with his course. He also talks about some of this stuff at the summit because he has a module for us, but it's called he's got his picking is one of them. essentially like people, they get kind of nervous and they're kind of like basically like picking at their weapon or maybe something in their pocket, kind of making sure kind of like the safety
Hmm.
talisman is still there. So that's one thing. Another one is grooming, where they're kind of like rubbing their face or something to that effect. And it's like something that's kind of build up. Maybe it's something kind of like a way to like offload adrenaline. I don't really know why. I can't tell you that. So don't quote me on this. The other thing is like kind of target glancing, where they're kind of looking around, making sure like nobody's watching. They're basically looking out for witnesses. And another one is like if they're kind of like really in close in your space, is something kind of like a definitive body weight shift. So if my shoulders are kind of like parallel, all of a sudden I've turned it to where my shoulders are now at a 45-degree angle with my dominant arm leaning behind me, probably means I'm loading up so I can kind of hit you with a sucker punch. Okay. So those are kind of like some small cues that you can get. There's also kind of like cultural things, like in Texas, everybody's wearing cowboy hats, so you see guys kind of take their hat off and put it down. So shit like that, man. It's there that is kind of like what I do, and but again, like that's not my content. I kind of know it very well. So I would suggest people check that out.
Okay. And he said his name was Craig Douglas.
Yeah, Craig Douglas of Shivworks.
Look him up.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat for you.
All right. So, anything else that, like, just the common civilian should know about? Like, I've heard like the two of the most dangerous places: gas station and parking lots,
Yep, in the dollar store.
and the
Any,
dollar
any
store.
dollar, any Dollar General, anything that's for like, um, I can say this right because I'm from the ghetto and grew up poor as shit. But any place that essentially is kind of facilitating customers of a low income, those are kind of the places that are typically your most dangerous places. Parking lots for Walmart, Dollar General stores. That shit is like the watering hole in the savannah. Like there's just something waiting to jump out and grab your ass. So you've really gotta make sure that you got a wide focus as far as like what's happening within that environment. But again, yeah. But as far as like what I think the average person should know, um, knowing is not enough in the sense that fighting is not a cognitive skill, it's a physical skill. And you need to do it. You need to practice it if that's something that you want to be capable of doing. I understand. We live in America. It's a peaceful society. Cops are, I mean, they're not perfect, but I mean, the shit that we call police corruption is normal everyday business in other countries.
Yeah.
So, um,
Yeah.
so I get it, but at the same time, it's like if being self-reliant and being somebody who is capable of protection and defense, like this is something you got to work on, and the biggest saver of money, is going to be getting a coach, getting somebody to help you, whether it's signing up for a class, because now you're not going to waste years trying to train on these things. Okay. So if there's something I want people to know, it's that.
Okay. Yeah, and go take a free jujitsu class. Pretty much every single gym out there offers a one-time class,
Yep.
just so you can see what it actually like. Because like one of the things that I've noticed is like the younger generation. I have like coworkers that have children that are in their 20s, and they tell me their sons have never even been in a fight. I'm like, so nobody in this kid's life has ever pissed him off enough that he just said, "Screw it, I'm punching this dude in the face." Like, you know what I mean?
They got
Yeah.
safe
I mean,
places nowadays, man.
I mean, still, dude. Like, I was young too, all right?
Shit happens, right?
Right? You just have enough, and it's like these kids nowadays are just so soft. Oh, another thing. So my youngest, it looks like he's 3 years old, and he's been playing a lot with this little electric drum. So I put on some videos of Joey from Slipknot because he's an amazing drummer, right?
Mm.
And then somehow this video came up that said Gen Z reacting to Slipknot, and the kids on there were like, "Oh my god, why does he sound so angry?" I was like, "What the heck is this?" I'm like, "That's a boy? That's a teenager right now. He's with lip gloss on and their nails done." I mean, that could have been product placement. You know what I mean? They picked that kid on
Yeah.
purpose. But I'm just saying, I'm like, good lord, man. Yeah, but just go take a class. Go take a class, and
Get your ass
hopefully,
handed to you.
yeah, and it's like you will actually feel what it's going to be like to be in it, not even in a fight, because the person is not trying to take your head off. He's not trying to punch you. It's
Yeah.
just feeling that like when I
Helplessness.
took it, yeah, helplessness. That's literally what it feels
Hmm.
like if you have
Hmm.
no idea and the other person just trains. It's not, he doesn't even have to be like the best in the gym. It's just he's been doing this for a year and this is your first time, and
Yeah.
you see the difference.
You know, and beyond that too, it's just like it's one of the combat sports are one of the last few meritocracies left.
Hmm.
You know, like I mean, it's not as hardcore as it was like when I first started, but like you know, back then they wouldn't even remember your name until like you got a blue belt because everybody just assumed you were gonna quit.
Hmm.
Uh, it's very humbling, and it also kind of teaches you about who you are, like how you actually deal with pressure, how you deal with failure, how are you able to kind of swallow some negative emotion, like is feel are your feels
Hmm.
enough to keep you from reaching a goal. And then you start thinking like, okay, well, no matter what happens in the circumstances or work or whatever, shit, I'm not getting my ass beat at jujitsu right now. So it's like, it doesn't really make a difference.
That's a win.
I'm not getting choked out by something that I didn't even see come. Like, dude,
Right.
when I was doing it, I kept getting caught in the Ezekiel choke.
Oh yeah.
And this dude just kept doing it. I was like, yo, how do I block that? And he just laughed. I defended a triangle, rear naked, armbar. Cool. I could not figure out how to. Like, he was grabbing on my shirt. No, he was grabbing his gi. And I don't know. All I
Yeah.
know is I went, "Ugh."
Yeah.
I was like, all right, let me tap.
Yeah,
I'm about
that's
to
why
go to
people
sleep.
quit, dude. That's why people quit so much because it's like you know, you're gonna spend your first 2 years tapping a lot, just getting your
Hmm.
ass beat over and over again. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot to overcome, but I mean, I would say
It's
the juice
fun.
is worth it. I would say the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah. Yep. Just having that because like even if you are a white belt but you do it consistently three
Yeah,
times a week, 2 times a week, most people don't do it. So you just knowing that little bit puts you in such a big advantage.
yeah.
Just don't go for a triangle in a street fight. You're gonna get power bombed. I've seen so many videos. I'm like, oh man, I thought that would be a great thing to do. It's like, nope. They just get picked up, bang. Oh man, but John, thank you so much for coming on. And this
Yeah.
time, this worked. It was awesome. Um, tell everybody where they could find you.
I'm easy to find. Just go to johnvalentine.com, or you can find me. All my social media is at johnv_actual.
All right. And then, as always, guys, we got to say hi to our sponsors. Go to goliathdefense.com and use 2AB. Hold on, this thing's supposed to pop up. There we go. Goliath Defense, you use promo code 2AB, you get 10% off. And then also go to cockfirearms.com and you use 2AB and you get 10% off. And if you are in Florida, oop, And if you are in Florida, Kyle just opened up his store. Look him up, Cock Firearms and Tail Feather Coffee. John, thank you so much for coming on today. This was a blast.
Yes, it
And thank you for
was a good
sharing
podcast.
your knowledge.
Yeah,
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
yeah.
All right, everybody. See you on Friday.
Good night.